Hello, Steph Rowley.
Hello. Hi, Sarah.
How are you?
I'm very good. I'm a little bit hot and probably a bit glowing, but I'm fine, thank you. Very well.
I'm trying to decide if I can leave this fan on. I'm a woman of a certain age, of course, and
Yeah,
been
stick
in,
with the fan.
yeah, just like that, and I can just cool myself off a little bit. So, Steph, I haven't had a coach like you on before because you coach a really, really specific kind of ideal client.
Yep, yep.
Who you coach? Tell me who you coach.
I coach people who work in market research and who have done for maybe sort of 10 years or more, and have got to a point where they've had enough, they want to make changes, they feel sick on a Sunday night at the thought of going to work and they need to do something different, but they're stuck. That, in a nutshell, is who I mostly work with.
Okay, and so when you say they're stuck,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
They're stuck in terms of trying to figure out what it is that they want to do next or what the next move is going to be. And usually, the reason people have got to that point is because they feel like they need something that's got a bit more purpose to it or something that feels a bit more meaningful to them. But because they've typically been in their career in market research for quite a long time, they've kind of lost sight a bit of what actually do I really want, what really does make me happy, and how do I find that thing.
Mm.
So the stuckness is usually around, the most common thing I get when I speak to potential clients is, I know that I need to make a change. I don't know what it is.
Right,
And until I know what it is, I don't even know how to go about doing it.
right. So, and as what I'm hearing there, feel free to correct me, is that there's an utter lack of an ability to figure out what transferable skills they have.
Um, I think it's partly to do with the transferable skills, although actually working in research industry, you get a lot of skills in a lot of different things.
Mm.
From problem solving to presenting, public speaking, managing people, analysis. There's a lot in there. So I don't think it's quite so much that. I think it's more around the purpose, and the passion has gone a lot of the time. And that's when people get stuck. So they think, what is going to give me that feeling that I really want to get up and go to work in the morning?
So that was the feeling they had when they first started in market research.
I think so for some people, but actually it's quite common to not have ever had that feeling.
Right.
Market research is a really weird industry because lots of people just fall into it by accident. I mean, I did it for 20 years and I think I've met one person ever who actually set out to have a career in market research. Everyone else just kind of comes into it by accident and thinks, oh, this sounds quite interesting. And it is quite interesting, it definitely is. And certainly at the beginning. But I do wonder if, as you go on, if you've never actually had that kind of burning passion for it, there's nothing to shore you up when things get tough or it gets a bit harder or it gets a bit more of a struggle. You don't have that kind of reserve to draw on where you think, once I loved this and I
Mm.
want to try and get back to that feeling.
So what I'm hearing is actually, and this is a real coachy word, it's just a feeling of being unfulfilled. Like there has to be more to it all than this.
Yeah, it is. And I think it is unfulfillment. And that is a very coachy word. It is one that I do talk about. But I think that does capture it. It's quite common in research when you get to a certain level, I suppose, like lots of jobs, it becomes about the numbers, it becomes about the revenue, it becomes about the money that you're bringing in. When you get to a certain position within a research agency, you are given sales targets, revenue targets, etc. And it becomes quite challenging.
Mm.
And I think that can kind of supersede any enjoyment that you might have had for it, because
Mm.
it's about getting the numbers on the page. how well are you doing? That is the measure of your success,
Mm, mm,
really, not necessarily what changes are you affecting or how are you helping people. And so I think it can be quite easy to suddenly feel like, what am I actually doing this for, other than making money for the company I work for, helping my clients make money in
mm,
whatever sectors they're in. And it can be quite easy to become quite disconnected from the purpose of it all. And so I think that unfulfilled feeling does really start to come through for people, because they just think, I'm not sure that I care about this anymore. I care about doing a good job, but I'm not sure that I really care about the work my clients are doing, or
mm.
trying to build up the revenue for the agency that I work in.
And you were there, weren't you? This
Yeah.
you're describing you. So talk to me about this Sunday night dread.
The Sunday night dread is awful, and I had it for quite a while, in my kind of later years working in research. And it's just that feeling that you get when, you sit on a Sunday, it kind of starts in the afternoon, you start thinking, oh God, work again tomorrow. And you just have that feeling that you just don't want to go. And it's
Mm,
kind of it's more than just that feeling when you've had a nice weekend and you think, "Oh, I'm going back to work tomorrow. That's a bit crap. I'd rather just not be." It's something a bit bigger than that, where you're sitting thinking, "I really don't want to do this." You start thinking about, how could I not have to go to work tomorrow? What could I
mm,
do? You just see another week looming in front of you, having to do things that you just really don't want to be doing, and in a quite a stressful and pressurized environment, and something that you don't really believe in anymore. It just can give you that really horrible kind of sick feeling. And I really did used to get that. I would sit on a Sunday, my husband would say to me, from kind of mid to late afternoon onwards, he's like, I can literally see your mood just declining as the evening goes on.
mm.
Because it's just that kind of feeling of dread, really, that starts to creep in. And it's horrible. It's really horrible.
It sounds like a kind of a forerunner to depression.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know, I think it definitely can affect your mental health for sure.
Mm, mm,
Because that's not a nice way to feel on a, a repeated basis.
yeah,
We all have patches where things are a bit tough at work or whatever, and you
mm,
feel a bit kind of fed up with it all.
mm,
But to feel like that on as your kind of default setting, really,
yeah,
when you think about your job, is really quite draining, and it does affect you. And it just kind of encroaches into your wider life, I think. You're
mm,
unhappy.
yeah.
Um,
Well, if you're feeling like that on a Sunday evening, then I suppose by the time you get to work on a Monday, because I kind of this unfulfilled thing, what I'm hearing, and again, feel free to correct me because
mm,
I'm just chatting, is boredom, frustration,
yeah,
kind of I've got to do this, so I'm going to just grit my teeth and get through it. Would
yeah,
that be fair?
yeah, definitely. It's definitely, I think, and I was actually talking to a potential client this morning, and we were talking about this. It's this kind of double whammy of, I know that I've kind of checked out mentally in terms of I'm not interested in this work anymore. I just don't want to be doing it. And then the other half of it is, but the work is unrelenting. It's long hours, it's hard work, it's client driven. So you're always kind of
Mm,
working to your clients' deadlines. Um, there's never enough time to do what you need to do. And when you marry those two things together, that
mm,
leaves you with quite a horrible sort of bit in the middle, which is, I'm totally overworked and I'm totally don't care about the work that I'm doing. That's a whatever the opposite of a sweet spot is.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's the bit that's just makes it really hard to just kind of struggle on. And I think in my case, I did it by just putting a big wall up and thinking, I've just got to just crack on here. because trying to figure out the alternative was too difficult and never really had time or the headspace to actually do that. So just kind of get to Sunday night, go, right, the shutters come down, just need to pull myself together and just, grind it out for another week. And that's really horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said something interesting there. You said not having the headspace.
Yeah.
There is a thing about mental bandwidth, isn't there? That in order to be able to sit back and reflect, sorry, that's my phone buzzing up, sit back and reflect on options, on ways forward, on actually how you feel, even.
Yeah.
Because all you know is it's like this sick Sunday night, horrid, got to get through the week. I've been there, not in the same way that you have, but I've been in a job a long time ago that I just hated. And it's like the minutes from Monday to Friday take an hour each, and the minutes on a weekend take a second each.
Yeah.
It's just shit, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it as not having the bandwidth, the emotional bandwidth to stop and to say, right, okay, let's have a think. And that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between really having the time and the space to think about this stuff, which I found really hard. Because I mean, by the end of the day, my brain was just like a cabbage. I couldn't think about anything really. At the weekends, I didn't want to think about it because that was my kind of sacred window of just sort of not thinking about all of that stuff. And I did a lot of talking to people, like friends and my husband and stuff, but actually what I was really just doing was moaning about how unhappy I was, but not really doing anything about it. And kind of got to a point where those people said, quite justifiably, kind of got to the point where I just can't keep having this conversation with you because nothing's changing and we spend ages talking about how unhappy you are and what changes you want to make, and nothing ever changes. And I think so there's a big difference between having those kind of conversations and actually having the time and the space to really think about things and face up to a few things maybe that you don't want to think about, because it's easy to just push that stuff to one side because it's too hard. It's too hard to think about.
Well, it's too hard when you haven't got any bandwidth anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it can be upsetting if you do allow yourself the space to think about it. And this is how I felt, and it's really common with the people I speak to. You just go round and round in this kind of confused loop, and then it just all gets too upsetting. You think, well, I can't figure it out, and then you just push it to one side again. So you never really get anywhere with it.
It's an interesting thing about coaching, isn't it? That most people don't know what coaching is. So, if you say maybe you want to speak to a coach, they're like, they either think they know what it is or they're utterly clueless. And when they think they know what it is, they're usually wrong. We know this. Yeah. We know this. Yeah. But one of the things that we do, this hamster wheel loop thing that you were talking about, we look for answers for solutions to situations we find ourselves in inside our own head. And we seem to think that we have the answers inside our own head. Yeah. And of course, without that external set of eyes, and again, I'm going to use a really naff coaching phrase, a thinking partner, somebody who can say, hang on a second, you're hamster wheeling. Let's take a step back. Let's stop because the problem with that loop is it becomes very ingrained. It becomes like a little track in your mind, doesn't it? That your mind just goes 3 o'clock in the morning track, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And so having a coach, having this external person who has no personal investment in the outcome, it doesn't matter to the coach what you decide to do. It's entirely up to you. So they're not going to go, oh, well, you've got to do that because we need the money, or well, just walk away then if you hate it so much.
Yeah.
Those things that your friends and your mom and your husband say. So having a coach, the people that you've worked with, it must be an absolute bloody wonderful thing. So tell me about how that works.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the people I work with, like I say, the main problem that they do come with is this feeling that I need change, I just can't figure it out. And they've, like you said, the hamster wheel, they've worn that groove so deep into their train of thought now, it's almost like they can't get out of it. And I think, exactly as you say, just sitting with somebody um, who will just ask you the right questions. That's all it is.
Mm,
It's not really rocket science, just ask you questions to help you look at things differently, to help you just kind of unjumble some of that thinking and tease things out.
mm,
And, be able to have that, like you say, non emotionally connected
mm,
conversation with someone who can just say, well, wait a minute ago you were saying this, now you're saying that, which is it? And it doesn't feel as maybe as confrontational as
mm.
that might feel if you're talking to your friend or your mum or
Yeah,
whatever,
or as judgmental.
or as
Yeah,
judgmental.
yeah.
Exactly. And just again to use kind of coachy language, to just have that space to really go through all that stuff and kind of
Mm.
unpick it all, I think is so valuable. And what people always say is, oh, I did have all the answers after all, I just didn't know how to
How to
get them out of my head,
Yeah, how to
basically.
access them. So
Yeah.
you created a lovely image there about unpicking this hamster wheel, and the image that I'm getting is kind of unpicking this trodden in, worn in track that you've been thinking, and unpicking it to lay a new path,
Yeah,
a path
exactly.
forwards,
Yeah,
rather
definitely. I
than
think
a
it's
round.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of describing it. It's just sorting it out, tidying it up, whatever you want to call it, and just getting that clarity. And then once
Mm.
you've got that, setting the path forwards is just a million times easier because you know what it is that you're trying to do then.
Absolutely. If you know where you're going, it's easier to get there, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
sounds really bloody
Yeah.
obvious when we say it like that, but actually that's the problem, isn't it? Is that people don't know where they're going. This is the path that I've trodden for so many years. I don't know a different path. This is my path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because so often when I speak to people, either at the beginning or when I'm kind of having like a consultation call with them, and they say, "Oh, I just don't know how to get where I want to go," or "I'm looking on LinkedIn," or "I'm doing all these things and I just can't work it all out." And if I say to them, "Well, where is it that you do want to go?" They say, "Well, I don't know." You think, well, how are you ever going to get there or know how to go there if you don't even know where it is that you're
So
trying to
what they're
go?
doing is looking through job ads for inspiration for the job ad to
Yeah.
say, hey, this is your wonderful job. And of course that's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of doing it back to front. It's just looking like scrolling through lists of jobs, hoping that one will jump out and say, "Oh, I would be right for you,"
Mm,
um, and kind of trying to retrofit it that way rather than getting really clear on, this is what I love, this is what I'm good at, this is what's going to give me that really amazing feeling of satisfaction, and then I will go out in a focused way and work out how to bring that into my life, whether it's through my job, whether it's through my personal life, whatever it might be. So
mm.
I think a lot of people come at it kind of from the opposite direction.
Yeah, reverse engineering it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's really interesting. The idea that somebody's scrolling through job ads, desperately looking for something to jump out and bite their nose,
yeah,
rather than knowing what you're looking for in the first
yeah.
place.
But I think that's the kind of
There must be
desperation.
parts. Okay. Mm. Yeah, there must be parts of the role that people go, well, actually, I really like that bit, but it's so
Mm,
small a part of my role now. I've become more senior, for example,
yeah,
or it's it only takes up this much percentage of my time, and actually, what I'd really like is for it to take up most of my time,
yeah,
etc. That kind of thing. Is that the sort of thing that you do?
yeah, definitely. And I think, it's true. Sometimes it's about, you can get sidelined, I suppose, or sidetracked away from parts of the job that you do enjoy. Um, it's pretty rare for me to speak to someone who just says, I hate every single thing about it. There's always something in there that people do like, or they want more of, and they can't work out how to get more of it.
Mm.
happening. But oftentimes it is just about actually making small, changes. Clients that I've been working with lately, they're not in a position, they say to me, look, Steph, I'm not going to just pack my job in and go off and do something completely different, because quite frankly, I'm just grateful that I've got a job at the moment. And the research sector has been hit quite badly with redundancies and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a real, kind of concern for people. But you can still make changes, even within the boundaries, oftentimes, where you're already working or what you're already doing. And I'm working with a couple of clients at the moment who are doing that, got no intention of leaving their jobs, even though they probably in an ideal world they would. But it's just not an option right now. But we are finding other ways that they can try and inject a bit more purpose and a bit more meaning into what they've got,
That sounds amazing.
and make it work for them. Yeah.
So, obviously without revealing any confidences, how does that work in practice? If you've got yourself to a stage where on a Sunday night you're feeling ill and you're loathing your Monday to Friday, how do you help them unpick the good bits?
Well, really, it's about kind of stripping it right back, going back to the beginning and just thinking, okay, you as a person, what do you love? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What really gives you that sense of satisfaction, that sense of fulfillment? And not just, kind of pushing to one side, whether that's coming from your job or not, just in life in general. Looking at things like your core values, who are you, what makes you tick? And then kind of thinking about, okay, so we've built this picture of, let's just say, I'm a creative person. I like bringing people together. I like inspiring. I'm not a doer, but I love coming up with inspiring ideas. That's the kind of thing that really gets me buzzing. Then it's about starting to just kind of build it up into, okay, if you're in a position where you're not about to go off and look for a new job, what could you do with where you are now to try and make that happen? Or is there a longer term plan? Is there something, I've got clients who've decided to go off and kind of study something on the side, because maybe one day I might like to do this or that. And then sort of building it up into actionable stuff that you can actually do something with. So whether it's, going out and, sometimes it's just talking to your boss and saying, look, I need more of this in my role to make me feel good. Sometimes it's going about talking to people who do the kind of work that you think might be interesting and asking them about it. Sometimes it might be learning something new. It's all kinds of different things. And sometimes I've had clients who've thought, well, I've realized that I need X, Y, and Z in my life. But in fact, maybe I could bring that into my personal life, into something that I do outside of work. And that will fulfill that part of me that needs that thing to be present in my life, even if I can't get it in my job right now. And even just making little changes like that can make such a huge difference to people.
Yeah, because it doesn't all have to be about the 9 to 5, does it?
No. I mean, and a lot of the time it is, because it is where we spend a lot of our time. And if you are miserable at work, then that does really leach out into, your life. I think it's probably a fairly unique person that can completely compartmentalize their life like that. But I think if we're talking about the bigger sense of life fulfillment, you can draw that from different places. Yeah.
So if I am a market research professional and I see this interview, how do I find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. And you can contact me through LinkedIn or email me. That's how I communicate mostly with my clients.
Okay, and your email address? Sorry, somebody's just arrived, so my dogs are going, this is keeping it real. Your email address, Steph.
Yeah, dog starts barking at the crucial moment.
Yeah.
It's steph@stephanierowley.co.uk.
Fantastic. Steph, that's with a PH, at
Yes.
stephanierowley.co.uk.
Yes, that's the
Fantastic.
one.
Well, Steph, we're kind of at the end of pretty much at the end of our 30 minutes. That went really quickly.
Really? It did go really quickly.
I'd say it wouldn't take as long as you think. It's
No.
I find that getting coaches talking about the thing that lights them up means that back to this time, seconds take minutes and minutes take seconds. It just, time seems to go. Whoosh. So it's been lovely talking to you. I'm so pleased that so many market research professionals have been able to find you, and let's hope many more continue to do so.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm on a mission to save them all from Sunday night dread. So keep going until I've done it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steph.